The Heavenly Treasury broadcast, where we help believers achieve God's financial abundance for your life. Today we're going to talk about guaranteed multiplication. That's right, guaranteed multiplication of what you have. Not 2 plus 2 plus 2, but 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Have you ever thought of the old question you get asked in elementary math class when when your math teacher is first asking you addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division? And the very first time you're asked that, as whatever you are, 7, 8, 9 years old, think about that. Think about this for a second. The teacher comes in and she asks you, I'm going to give you $5. I'm going to give you $1 today and $1 tomorrow and $1 the next day and get you $1 every single day for the month. Or would you rather have me give you a penny today and then I'll double that penny to 2 pennies tomorrow, and then double those 2 pennies to 4 pennies, and then to 8 pennies? Which one would you rather have? Now, most people are going to say the first one. I'm going to take the $1 today and the $1 tomorrow. There's no possible way a penny and then 2 pennies. I don't want to deal with pennies. I want to deal with dollars. They're a lot more fun because it's a lot bigger. All right. And then you think about the math. All right. So think about this for a second. Okay. 1 plus 1 is 2, of course. Then plus 1 is 3, and then 4, and then all the days of the month. Let's just make the math easy. For 30 days, $1 a day is $30. Okay? All right. Good month. Now you take the second option. First is a penny, and then to 2 pennies, and then to 3 pennies. First one to penny, then 2 pennies, then 4 pennies, then 8 pennies. All right? And now 16 pennies. So after 5 days, your partner who chose the addition has $5. You, on the other hand, after 5 days, have 16 cents. Things are not looking good for you. However, here's where it gets fun. Okay? You know what? Let's just draw this out. Okay? Right here. All right? Let's take our good old friend Excel. So after days, all right, addition, multiplication. All right, so day 1, all right. Let's take this all the way down to 30 days. All right, addition is 1 plus 1, and then all the way down to 30. So guess what? After 30 days, you have $30. But the next person says, you only get 1 penny today, and then I'm going to double it tomorrow. Oh, excuse me. Equals. Let's see here. All right, now you have 2 pennies. All right, so guess what? The next day, you have 4, and now you have 8, and now you have 16. Here you are, after 1 week. Your partner has $7. You have 64 cents. Well, now it gets fun because now you have $1. After 8 days, you now have $1, and so on and so forth. But guess what? After 12 days, you have now exceeded your partner who took the addition. You're looking a lot better. They, on the other hand, are not. If you've ever been a master in the marketplace, and we're going to talk about that extensively today, this is exactly what you see almost all the time. You see your friends who are getting paychecks and they're moving up the corporate ladder, and after 5 years they get a 30% raise and all that, and they're doing great. Meanwhile, after 5 years, you, on the other hand, are just starting to kick it into high gear. But after 5 years, their income combined after 5 years is still higher than yours. All right. Now, it doesn't have to be this slow. With God, it's going to be super, super quick. But just a theoretical example. Now, all of a sudden, that one location that you have, that you've now gotten off on the ground, you've got it stable, you've got the employees, you got the people, you got the processes, you got the products and services, and everything is great after 5 years. Well, now one location turns to 2. And you have that exact same income on 2 locations instead of 1. Guess what you now have? Multiplication. Okay? And the reason this is on my mind is because I was listening to Dan Cathy, who's the chairman of the board of Chick-fil-A, and how Chick-fil-A got its start. His father, Truett Cathy, from one store, then to two, and then to four, and then to eight. That's multiplication. Did you know that Chick-fil-A now has 3,000 locations? Standalone locations. Okay? Could be a mall location, standalone location, but 3,000 Chick-fil-A entities where you can go get that beautiful chicken and have excellent service. Now, they did not start out with 3,000 or 2,000 or 1,000. They started out with one. And Truett Cathy, their CEO, said, you know what? I'm not going to two until this one is perfect. Because guess what happens? If you get that one that still has an error in it or some sort of problem, guess what's going to happen? That one error is going to turn to 2 errors and 4 errors and 10 errors and 10 issues. Okay? And it's a lot easier to deal with one issue with 10 employees than it is to deal with 10 issues with 100 employees. All right? The CEOs watching this can give me a big fat amen on that. They know exactly what the problem is. Okay? And the problem is that when you're growing and you haven't perfected what you have now, guess what? That problem extrapolates to bigger. That's why if you've ever been in business and you've committed wholeheartedly, which I hope you have by now, committed all your business efforts and your work efforts wholeheartedly to the Lord. Remember, the blessing of the Lord makes a man rich and adds no sorrow. So guess what happens? If you have a problem today, that problem is going to be extrapolated if you have more money. That's why a lot of you may be struggling right now, and the problem is not with your business, and the problem is not with your work. The problem is with your life outside of work. Because remember, again, the blessing of the Lord makes a man rich, but adds no sorrow. If you're going to have sorrow with more money, God is not blessing you with more money. I don't care how much money you put into the offering bucket. I don't care how much seed time and harvest you study. I don't care how much hundredfold you tattoo on your butt. Guess what? You're not getting anything from the Lord because you have to fix your personal life in order for God to bless you. Because if you're, again, we've talked about joy extensively, and I mean extensively, and we're going to continue to talk about happiness and joy and how critical it is for you as a believer to be happy, to make the choice to be happy every single day with the Spirit of the Lord within you. Okay? I think we've said 1 Thessalonians 5, 16 to 18. I don't know how many times. I kid you not. How many times have we talked about this? Because it's so important for you to give thanks in everything, because that is God's desire for you after you get saved. It's for you to give thanks to Him in everything. He is a great, magnificent, wonderful, gracious God who's going to provide all of your needs and all of your wants. All right? There's no other God out there that you can serve wholeheartedly where there is a blessing for obedience. If you go to other religions, now again, I'm not some theological expert, but when you do go to other religions, most of the time it's you do this or God is going to strike you. You do this or bad things are going to happen. And it's almost like a threat. All right? And that doesn't really get people motivated. It doesn't. Yes, if you put a gun to somebody's head, they'll do what you ask them to do. But is it really obedience? No. It's more of, I'm going to take a rope, tie it around your neck, and pull you forward. That's not a way to live. However, because God's blessings are so great and abundant, and you're going to learn about them continuously on this broadcast, guess what? That's the blessing of obedience. And we talk about that quite a bit, okay? So just think about this. If the blessing of the Lord makes a man rich and adds no sorrow, you have to have your life in such a great place that you have no sorrows, okay? When you get the riches. Because if you do get the sorrow, God, look, some of you, if you double your income today, you're in divorce court tomorrow. All right? That's just the way it is. Because you have to work on your marriage before you can accept those great, mighty riches. I cannot tell you how many times that I have gone to prayer at the beginning of the day and said, Lord, what do you want me to do? How can I grow the business endeavors that you've put in front of me? You know what he says? Work on your marriage. Love your wife. Honor her. I can't tell you how many times that's happened because our marriage has to be in such a great place before God can really expand and bless with the riches that he wants to. He wants to bless you. He does. But you have to be in a place to accept them. Okay? And we're going to talk about that all the time here. All right? It's not just going to be your business endeavors and your work endeavors. We're going to talk about that a lot because the Bible is chock full of money scriptures. Again, if this is your first time watching, thank you for joining. I hope you're going to get blessed today. But think about this. This is something you probably didn't know. that heaven is mentioned at least 5 times less than money. Sin is mentioned at least 5 times less than money. If money wasn't so important to God, he wouldn't have talked about it so much. And it's not just about giving. And I'm going to tell you this right now. This is something you're very rarely going to hear from anybody else. Most people do not accept the financial prosperity and abundance. Most ministers, at least, do not accept the financial prosperity and abundance that the Lord wants for you. Most of them do not. Okay? And again, that's most of the reason why the congregation is struggling, because they either don't like it all, don't know about it, or just actively speak against it. Because if you actively speak against financial abundance, guess what you're not going to have? Financial abundance. Okay? That's why this is so important, and to be able to multiply what the Lord has given you. Okay? So again, the big difference between me, the way that I see the Bible, and I've read the Bible, oh my goodness, it's getting up to 10 times. It may even be a dozen. I really don't care at this point. I'm not keeping track. The reason I don't keep track is because I don't want to see myself as a better Christian or a better believer than somebody else. Yes, I openly study the Bible. I do every single day. Okay, at least most times per week. Okay, most days per week I'm in the Bible at least some way, because the Lord's word continues to move in me. All right, even today, my reading today was the last 5 books of Exodus. Okay, and the biggest thing that I got out of that is that when all of God's people give with the heart to his kingdom, there's always more than enough. And with God and El Shaddai that you serve, guess what? More than enough. Always. Okay? Always. All right, and you're gonna learn about that, and you're gonna get that in your spirit as you watch this more and more and more. Again, like I said before, most ministers do not teach on this. If they do teach on money in any way, shape, or form, it's either to bash other ministers who talk about financial abundance, or it's just to steward the best that you have, or it's about how much you can give. Okay, and even with that giving message, it's not even a proper giving message, because there's no blessing attached to it. All right, because remember, everything when you're obedient to the Lord, there's a blessing for it, including your giving. All right, and then on the other hand, you hear a lot of people, again, if you've never heard what the world deems prosperity preachers, and I'm not going to talk about them at all in that sense, because it really bemoans them. It's really people who truly study the whole gospel. If you look at all the people that you quote unquote deem as prosperity preachers, they also believe in divine healing. They also believe in the gifts of the Spirit and movements of the gift of the Spirit and movements in their meeting of the Holy Spirit. They believe the whole thing, and part of that whole thing is financial prosperity and abundance. Okay, so that's why I don't like that term at all. But the people who truly believe the gospel, full forth, head and shoulders, if you've never heard them before, it's very easy for you to get sucked in and hear that the message on abundance and offerings and tithes as, if I give, then automatically, no matter what, something's going to come back to me. No matter how my life is, no matter what I do for a living, no matter how I live my life, something financially is going to come back to me, guaranteed, no matter what. And I got sucked into that when I first got listening to the preachers. Again, nothing wrong with them. I adore them quite a bit, and I give to most of them, to be honest with you, because if I want abundance in my life, I'm going to tie myself financially with ministries that are abundant. That's just how I live. That's how my giving works, and always has been and always will be. Okay, so if somebody, one of the preachers that I give to just got their first private aircraft within the last month or two. I'm happy to do that, because if that preacher's on that level of increase, guess what I'm going to be doing? I want to get on that path of financial increase also with the Lord. Okay, so when I'm investing in and partnering with ministries that are growing with the whole gospel, that's something that I want to do. And so you're never going to hear me talk bad about those people at all. I mean, the only thing that I really would disagree, if anything at all, is just how the message sometimes gets presented as if you just give, then automatically, no matter what, you're going to get something. Now, it's in the Word. I will tell you this right now. It is in the Word that you're going to receive. But you have to be ready to receive. Your life has to be in order for you to receive. All right? So there is no 100% guarantee that if you give to a ministry that it's going to come back to you 100% based on the choices that you make. I want to make that crystal clear. So I want to craft my message into believing the financial abundance of the Bible and of God, while also getting your life in order that you can receive the blessing that the Lord has for you when you're obedient to him. Okay? So that's where I'm going to fall. I'm going to fall in a very, very niche place. And I'm going to continue to do that. And if you watch this 30 years from now, it's going to be the same message today that it is 30 years, because the Lord's word does not change. The Lord's word does not change. The people he blesses and how they get blessed will not change. Okay? And you can fall into that category. And that's where I want you to be. That's my goal, is to get you in a place to do the things that the Lord wants you to do and receive the abundance that the Lord has for you. That's my goal. Okay? And so that's where I'm going to fall in this. So with that being said, I am going to believe all of the promises of Deuteronomy 8. I am. Deuteronomy 28. All those blessings belong to me. Why? Because Galatians 3 promises it. When Christ died, Galatians 3 makes it very, very clear that when Christ died on the cross, that he redeemed us from all the curse of the law. That means not only that, it also means that we are grafted in to the Abrahamic covenant. That's what Galatians 3, it's very, very powerful. And I'm not going to go into the technical details of it today, but just understand, and that's why it's important to believe. Believe. All right? All the blessings in the Old Testament belong to you. And we have a better covenant under better promises than the Israelites did, because we believe in Jesus. All right? Remember, God chose the Israelites. We chose God. That's why our covenant is better. That's why our covenant is better, because we could have chosen any other God. We could have chosen Buddha. We could choose Muhammad. We could choose to make a gold image of ourselves and just craft it and put it in our desk and worship it every single day because we want money. So we're just going to make a gold image and just worship it all day long. Guess what? We could have done that. We could have done that. But instead, we chose to serve the living, true God, the name above all names, El Shaddai, who sent his son to die for you and to die for me and to die for everybody else, even the ones who just completely neglect it. God sent his son to die for you. Now, I'm going to tell you this. I have multiple sons. I would not send any one of them to die for your sins, to die for your mistakes, to die for your transgressions. Not in a million years would I do that. No. Okay? So that's how much God loves us. And not only that, it's his only son, his one and only son he sent to be able to do that. All right? And it's, again, the one thing I want to make crystal clear is this. God did not just send his son to die for our sins and our salvation to make it to heaven. That is the primary and best role of what Jesus did for us. He also died for our sicknesses. He died for our poverty as well. So those two things should never come into your life, okay? And if they do, it's an enemy attack. It's an enemy attack, or you're not being obedient to what the Lord tells you to do. It's one of those two things. And most of the time, it's an enemy attack, okay? I've had weird, very weird situations in my life where business has been taken from me. Now, again, some of it was because of me. A lot of it was because of somebody else in some very unique situation that couldn't possibly have happened unless it was some higher power of some sort. Okay, so you're gonna find that quite a bit. All right. So with that being said, I mean, I really just want you to know that there's guaranteed multiplication when we do what the Lord is asking us to do. Okay, and on top of that, when I have read the Bible, I'm gonna tell you this right now. Giving in there is maybe 15% of all the money scriptures. Maybe. When it comes to giving. Giving is very important. And again, I think of all the broadcasts I've done so far, I think only one has been on giving. Only one, because there's so much more to it than just being able to give. Now, yes, it's important that every single one of us, no matter what position you're in, have something to give and something to sow into God's kingdom. I don't care how small you are. I don't care what you have. I don't care if you're living in your car right now. You literally could be living in your car watching this right now, and you do have something to give. You have something that you can sow into God's kingdom that he can bless and return a harvest to you. He can. Okay? I'm not putting that aside. But I want to make it crystal clear that you also have to believe, and it's very important for you to believe, that the increase has to come from your labor. The increase comes from your labor. It does not come from your giving. It comes from your labor. The Lord is going to bless your labor. Okay? All right. And so I really want to make that crystal clear, because a lot of the ministries that you see that most news and, unbelievers and even some believers deem as, the prosperity people, guess what? These people have full schedules. These people have very, very full schedules, and they preach like Jerry Savelle, I listen to him all the time. I do. He's one of the most blessed people. And when it comes to receiving God's blessing and the best that God has for you, there's nobody better than him. He is either in his late 70s or early 80s. He had a stroke 5 years ago. He is still traveling. The last time I heard him, I saw him in person, he said he had preached 17 straight days. Now, how many preachers in their 80s or late 70s are preaching 17 straight days, flying around the world? No one, okay? Because I'm going to tell you this right now, if Jerry Savelle stopped preaching, his blessing would also come to a screeching halt. Why? Because the Lord has put him in a path. The Lord has given him a path, and he is obedient to that path. And he is very, very obedient to that path. And he works as if Jesus is coming tomorrow. He literally works as if Jesus is coming tomorrow, because if he does not preach where the Lord has called him to do, somebody might not be saved. Somebody might be going to hell. And if the tribulation comes soon and the rapture comes soon and all that end time stuff, guess what? They're left behind. So that's why people like him are blessed beyond belief. It's because of their calling and their sowing. Okay? If all they did was sow and did no preaching, no spreading of the gospel, none of that whatsoever, their blessing and their harvest would fall off the face of the earth. It would just be gone. And that's what I want to really emphasize to you, that we have to figure out what our path is, what our purpose is, and why we're supposed to be on this earth, and what problem we have been given to solve. Okay? Now, a lot of you, again, we talked about your assignment and your purpose either last broadcast or the previous broadcast. So if you're not sure what that is, go back and watch it and you'll figure it out. Okay? That's what I really want to emphasize to you, is that we have to know what our purpose is, walk in that purpose, and now we're ready to receive all that God has for us, his best. Okay? We're ready to receive God's best. Okay? So that's what I really want to emphasize to you, and that's why I'm doing this broadcast, because my problem that the Lord has given me to solve is to help his people financially. That is the problem that the Lord has given me to solve. And every single thing that I do when it comes to that, every single task that I do has to be centered around this. Okay? Every single one. And this broadcast is part of it. The book series that I've written that's going to come out soon is going to be part of that. All of it is, okay? And it's so important, and I want the message to be spread so well that I'm not taking a dime from any of the book sales that I ever get. And you can put a marker on it, you can postmark it, you can write it in permanent. Okay? I'm not taking a dime from any book sales that I get with all the books that I have coming out. Every single one is given to the poor. Okay? That's going to be my almsgiving. 10% tithe, okay? And then 90% to the poor. Why? Because number one, I want to be obedient in the part of my giving. Number two, I know that those who give to the poor lend to the Lord, and he repays you. So if I give $1 million to the poor, $1 million is coming back to me. So it doesn't matter where I receive $1 million from book sales, or I give $1 million to the poor, and then $1 million comes back to me over here. It doesn't matter to me. Okay? Either way, I'm still getting the $1 million. And then on top of that, those who give to the poor lack nothing. Those who give to the poor lack nothing. Okay? So again, those are two big blessings that come to you when you give to the poor. All right? So focus on those. Now, again, we want to bless the people who can't help themselves. We really do. People who are in true abject poverty, or people who are in dire situations that they couldn't possibly have foreseen that they got themselves into. Okay? That's your almsgiving right there. All right? So again, that's one of the big reasons why I want to focus on that, beyond just the blessings that come from being obedient to the Lord. Okay? So again, everything that I'm doing is revolving around my purpose, and everything you are doing should revolve around your purpose as well. Even if your purpose is really, really big and you don't quite have the financial engine going yet to propel you into where you want to go, guess what? It's okay if you're only doing your thing 5, 10, 15, 20 hours a week, but you have to get funding and live and work somewhere over here. That's okay for now. Eventually, the Lord is going to push you that now 15 and 20 hours is now going to push to 40, and then over here is going to drop to 20, because this financial engine is going to start getting cranked. It's going to start cranking and going and going and going and going and going. And once this engine is going, that's when you are ready to receive the best that the Lord has for you. It really is, because now every single day, every single task can be utilized to fulfilling your assignment and purpose. That's what the Lord wants for you. Okay? So if there's some side business that was given to you that the Lord put in your hand, it's for that purpose. It's for that purpose, to get you on your assignment and out of the world. It's for you to stop being a servant and get you into being a laborer and master. That's the purpose of that side business that was put in front of you. Okay? So again, all of this has to go with our assignment. And when we get to our assignment, again, circling back all the way to the beginning that we talked about with addition versus multiplication, there's plenty of multiplication. And not only that, it's guaranteed. Guaranteed multiplication when we do what the Lord has for us. Now, how can I say that? Because the Lord said it. Where? Here it is. Deuteronomy 8, verse 13. Right here. Remember, every single blessing that the Israelites received by going to the promised land, that is the same blessing, if not greater, that you will receive when you get to your promised land. Okay? So think about this. When the Lord has your assignment, whatever that is, and you step into it, and you get to your promised land, and you conquer the giants that are there, every single thing that the Israelites received in Deuteronomy is going to come to you plus more. Right? Because again, circling back to Galatians 3, remember, when Jesus died, he destroyed the curse of the law and grafted us into the Abrahamic covenant. This right here in the New Testament, the first 5 books, the Torah, guess what? That's the Abrahamic covenant. And every single blessing in there belongs to you. You just have to know about it and accept it. Those are the first things you have to do. Know about it and accept it. And accept it without apology. I have no apologies for anything in that book that belongs to me. None. Fine homes belong to me. Land belongs to me. Increase belongs to me. And I accept it. And I happily accept it. And I promote it. That's what I'm doing on this broadcast right now. I'm promoting that guaranteed increase when we are obedient to the Lord. Okay? So here's Deuteronomy 8:13. And we'll talk about a lot more of this going by. Because remember, look at this. Deuteronomy 8:12. Think about this. Lest you eat and be satisfied and build lovely houses and shall dwell in them. Okay? Think about that. Just think about that for a second. The Lord is promising the Israelites that once they get to their promised land, that they will eat and be satisfied. That means eat good food. Okay? If you're eating noodles right now, yes, you're being sustained, but it's not satisfying. All right? Now, I'm not talking about, fancy pho noodles from some great Vietnamese restaurant. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about ramen noodles. All right? The cheap noodles. The ones that are just in a box, that are good for 5 years. You just put boiling water on them, and guess what? It's great. All right? Or you think it's great. All right? But the reality is that those noodles are killing your insides. All right? That's not satisfaction. Satisfaction is, I just ate steak and potatoes, and I'm eating a piece of pie for dinner. And all right? And I've got some bananas Foster for dessert. That's satisfaction. All right? If you've ever had that meal with steak, potatoes, some grilled asparagus, and then for dessert, you got bananas Foster. Oh my goodness. That's satisfaction. That's what he's referring to here. That's God's best. All right. So that was for the Israelites. And build lovely homes and shall dwell in them. All right. Now that is a topic right there that's going to take at least 3 to 4 broadcasts for me to go through. Build lovely homes and shall dwell in them. So if he promised that to the Israelites, he promised that to you too. That you would build lovely homes and dwell in them. That means homes, multiple homes. And remember, the Lord promised the Israelites in Deuteronomy 15 that they would lend and never borrow. So again, this is a precursor to a future broadcast. I don't know when that's gonna happen, but at some point I will talk about housing and when it comes to what the Lord has for you and how you can get there. Okay? Because again, if you think the Lord promised me, just at the very surface level, even if you really believe in financial abundance, this is hard to take in. I'll be honest. The first time I read this, I thought my mind said, not my mouth, but my mind said, there's no possible way this is for me. No way that I could build lovely homes and dwell in them without debt. But that's what the Lord promised. Again, all these Deuteronomy 28 and 28 blessings, my goodness, they are huge. They're huge. All right. But again, topic of another conversation, but just giving you a precursor that, wow, that's got to take a massive blessing from the Lord. And it does. And it does. Okay. But here's 8:13. This is really what I want to focus on. And your herds and your flocks increase, and your silver and your gold are increased, and all that you have are increased. So that means when the Israelites get to the promised land and they defeat the giants, all that they have will increase. Now let's go to the King James really quick, because it's slightly different. Here's what it says. And when thy herds and thy flocks multiply, and thy silver and thy gold are multiplied, and all that thou hast is multiplied. Guess what? Multiplication. There it is. Here it is. Deuteronomy 8:13. The guaranteed multiplication that comes from serving the Lord and being obedient to him and working unto him and doing what he asks you to do. Multiplication. There it is. So everything you have should multiply. Everything you have should multiply. And that's, again, it says all that you have is increased. That means, do you have a house? Do you have a house? That's going to multiply. Is it just you and your wife? All right, your family's going to multiply. Okay? Do you have assets right now? Financial assets. Those will multiply. Are you a rancher? Do you have cattle? That will multiply. Are you a gardener? Are you a farmer? Guess what? Those crops and herds shall multiply. Everything you have shall multiply. Do you have shares of stock? Guess what? Those are multiplied because it says all that you have. So if you have bonds, those will multiply. That's what the Lord guarantees. Now, this is not something for you to say, I'm just going to blindly put $100,000 into this stock, and God said it would multiply. So guess what? It's going to multiply. I'm just going to forget about it. That's a fantasy, and that leads to poverty. Okay? You did no homework, you did no studying, you did no listening to the Lord. You weren't obedient to what he asked you to do. Okay? So again, if that doesn't mean carte blanche, do whatever we want. But when we are obedient to him and do what he asks us to do, their assets will multiply. They will multiply. Okay? And that means increase very, very quickly. So with that being said, I mean, you have to believe this because it's in the Bible and it's for you. It's part of your covenant with God. It is. Now you may think that's hogwash, but again, go read Galatians 3 to see that Christ died to remove the curse of the law, and Christ died so that we would be grafted into the Abrahamic covenant, which is right here. That's right here. Okay? So again, this is part of you. Now, what does that mean? Let's go back to our very, very initial example of the two people, one who chose addition, one who chose multiplication. Guess what it looks like right now? All right? So let's zoom in a little bit. One more. All right? So there we go. Right now we are at day 12. Right here. All right? So it took you 12 days for multiplication to beat addition. 12 days for multiplication to beat addition. And that's with the multiplication starting at a penny and then doubling. The addition started with $1. So not only did you start with $1, you started with 100 times more, but even as you're going forward, I mean, think about this. If you're right here after a week, your addition had $7 and your multiplication had 64 cents. Think about the bragging that the person with addition would have. Just think about that for a second. I've worked for a week. I've got $7. I mean, literally, if you do this, you're 11 times bigger after a week doing addition than multiplication. So the first person is going to say, see, look, I'm bigger. I mean, the same thing happens all the time in the Bible where you have somebody who's either taken a brief defeat or they have some big challenge, something like that. And then you'll see somebody say, look, David was living in a cave. Daniel went to the lion's den. Guess what? That's not how the story ended. And it's not going to end that way for you either. All right? I see you rising higher and higher. I see you getting out of where you are right now. And I see you entering into the Lord's blessing for you. once you continue to do what he asks you to do. All right. So don't you dare take one look at the enemy, have him say, "Oh, something broke in my house today. I'm just going to throw in the towel. This stuff doesn't work." Sorry. Keep reading, keep going, keep praying, keep seeking, keep honoring, and watch what happens. Daniel went to go serve Nebuchadnezzar right up to the king. King David ruled the whole kingdom and ended it with his private treasury between $6 and $7 billion. All right? So it's not how the story ends. When you see all these people with all these challenges, all right, Moses at the very beginning when he was chosen said, "I can't do this. I can't speak." Guess what happened? He ended up leading the Israelites. God said, "You're going to do it anyway." He started with beating an Egyptian to death and burying him in the sand. Guess what? That's not how the story ended. And it's not how it's going to end with you either when you continue to honor and seek the Lord. I mean, Moses was obedient to the Lord in everything that he did from that point on, except one thing. Okay? Just one thing he wasn't obedient on. For 40 years, he was obedient except for one thing. Okay? Now, it's when they were searching for water and they were complaining. Moses went to God and said, "You know what? Go to this rock, beat it with a stick, and water's going to come out. Okay? And then give me credit." Moses said, you blah, 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 Israelites, here's your water. See what I did for you. So instead of giving the Lord credit, he gave himself credit. That was the only act of disobedience that he had, and it kept him from the promised land. Okay? Other than that, Moses was obedient wholeheartedly to the Lord. And look at what he did. He led the Israelites through the desert for 40 years. All right? Some of you can barely manage your own family if they're complaining to you for 2 hours. Imagine hundreds of thousands of people looking to you and complaining every single day for 40 years. That's a great amount of patience. That's a great amount of obedience that Moses had for the Lord. And look where he ended up. Okay? So don't ever think that where you are now is where you're going to end up. That's not the way it's going to be. I promise you that. This is why I continually talk about increase. Because once you get on a different train track, there's a different route. Okay? You can literally get on the same train track as everybody else, as the rest of the world, go forward with the rest of the world. All of a sudden you make one switch right here. And it goes a little bit slower at the beginning. A little bit slower at the beginning because there are some things you had to work on and you had to grow through in order to get where you want to go with the Lord. So while you're growing with that and your finances are either stagnant or even moving backwards just a little bit, on the other side, their finances are moving forward. And so they look at you and say, "Ha ha, see? You chose the wrong path." Guess what? You're on the right path. You are. You just have to get some things cleared up in your life. You got to remove some impurities, and then you're ready for the exponential increase. The exponential increase. Okay? So that's why. So that's one of the big reasons why Jesus tells us in Mark 10 to leave everything behind, including relationships, because those relationships that you have right now are not the relationships that you're going to require to get to where the Lord wants you. Because think about this: the people you know now are the people who've known you for a long time. And the moment you say, "I'm done living this life and going over here," it doesn't matter where you go, how high you climb. The people you know right now are always going to view you as the person you were, not the person you're becoming. That's the importance of leaving relationships behind. As difficult as it is, you are on a path of increase and growing and growing and growing. That may mean you may be stagnant for a little bit because you have to grow and you have to remove the impurities and gain skill sets required to complete your assignment. That may take some time, and that will take some time. But on the other side, those people are not doing that. Those people are addition. Those are the people right here after 1 week of you being, it's not going to be 1 week, it may be 1 year. Okay? And they see where you are after 1 year of serving and honoring the Lord. And maybe you're actually worse off after a year. Guess what? The people who saw you are going to think, "That's stupid. Get off the path. Come back over here and we can be happy." Okay? Well, guess what? As soon as you get off, as soon as you get off is typically when you're ready to take off. That's typically when most people will get off the path of the Lord and come back over here. Because it's very, very tempting to see everybody else doing what they want, doing what they desire, and all of that, and you getting over here and not being able to do that right away. Okay? Because again, the impurities that you have to be removed. Once those are removed, there you go. Okay? But until that time, it's very easy for the current relationships that you have to talk down to you. That's why it's important to leave them, and the Lord will bring you new people. The Lord will bring them new people. Why? He promised it in Mark 10. Jesus tells us, if you leave your relationships behind, I'm going to give you new and better ones. 100-fold increase. That means 100 times better people are coming to your life if you leave the current people behind. That's what he promised, okay? Now, let's say you're right here, and now after a week, you're finally getting better, and let's say you're ahead where you are now after 12 days, your multiplication route is ahead of the addition route. Now that the people you left behind are going to say, well, that's not going to last very long, because look at all those days you stay in the mud, and who cares? All right, I'm going to pass you. Just give me some time. Well, guess what happens the next day? You're now up, instead of you being up $8, you're now up $27. Now you've really left those people behind to the point where they can't even talk to you anymore. You are so far ahead of the people you left behind, the situations you left behind, the life you left behind, that, oh my goodness, look where you are. $27. And it only goes up from there. Think about this. When you remove the impurities, when you study the Lord's word, when you seek him in prayer, when you be refined by him, when you build every single aspect of your life, and it's good, and it's perfect, and it's noble, and it's praiseworthy, this is where you're headed. Look, and now instead of being up $27, you're now up almost $70. All right? Now you have, if you look backwards, you can't even see the people you've left behind at this point. And it only goes up from there at the very end of the month. Look where you are. Think about this. When your friends end the month with $30, you end the month with $5 million. Simply because you chose the route of multiplication. That's what the Lord has for you. That's what the Lord has for you. Listen, these are numbers, all right? The numbers don't lie. Multiplication always beats addition significantly. Significantly. Okay? Just think about it. Just stare at this for a second. And just go back to day one. And you had that choice. Do I want the $1 now and just have $1 every single day? Or I want a penny now and have it double. And have it double. Okay? Starting 100 times less, you are now so many solar systems ahead that you can't even see where you left. And that's going to happen to you. That's going to happen to you. When you get on the Lord's path and you continually be refined by him and you seek him and you build the skills that he wants you to learn, and you're going to have to learn new skills. You are. Once you do that, this is the path that you have financially when all that you have has multiplied. All that you have has multiplied and multiplied over and over and over again. Okay? Because if you multiply today versus a year ago, well, now you read the Bible again and you say, well, all that I have is supposed to multiply again. Guess what it's going to do? Multiply again. Multiply again. Okay? So that's what I want to talk about today is guaranteed multiplication. Again, you may be starting at a low point, lower than everybody else, and you may see them moving forward quicker than where you are right now. But as you pick up steam, you're going to start rising higher and higher and higher to a life that you can't even imagine right now. What the Lord has for you when you are wholeheartedly obedient to him and all that he asks you to do. I cannot stress this enough. I want you to just think about this. If you even imagine and close your eyes for just a moment and thought of the absolute best perfect life, I'm doing it right now, and you thought of the best perfect life for you, that times a million is what the Lord has for you. That's what times a million is what the Lord has for you, because once you have that life, you're going to share it with everybody else, and you're going to get them on a path of increase, and you're going to get them on a path of financial abundance. And guess what that means? Not only are you satisfied, but you're sending the gospel out to people that you can't even, who will never ever say thank you until they meet you in heaven. And God himself tells you the reason why you're saved right now is because this guy right here built a great business and sent that minister to your village. That's what you have in store for you beyond just your own personal life. That's what the Lord has for you. I cannot thank you enough again for listening today. I hope you have a very blessed day. We'll talk to you very soon. Take care, everybody.